Hey guys, it's Leo Stargazer. I'm here today with a pick a card self-guided tarot reading in honor of the Mercury Cazimi happening in Libra. The Mercury Cazimi happens overnight Thursday night, so either Thursday or Friday, depending what time zone you're in. But by the time Friday arrives, today, you will be able to tap into all of that Cazimi energy and really use it to guide your day and guide this interim week between eclipses. This Cazimi is going to be incredibly important for us to be able to get a little bit of guidance, a little bit of warmth and joy and energy to propel us forward through this time of transition, this time of shadows. And so I'm really hoping that based on your intuition and how the reading turns out for you, I'm hoping that you can get a lot of guidance and clarity to help emphasize and amp up all of the messaging that Mercury needs you to hear, all of the enlightenment and knowledge that you're going to need to stay protected and comforted and buoyed on the way to next week's lunar eclipse in Taurus. So last week we had a solar eclipse in Libra. We have this Cazimi in Libra this week. And then next week we have that lunar eclipse in Taurus at the end of the week. So eclipse season is in full swing, and I really want us to get as much guidance as we can, tap into our intuition starting today, and use all of that Cazimi warmth and joy and knowledge to move forward. Okay, the two crystals I've chosen today are Sunstone and Chrysocolla. I want you to look at these two crystals, contemplate what they're saying to you, contemplate the messages you are getting just from seeing them. I want you to let your intuition speak and guide you to one card or the other, and we will be doing an oracle reading and a tarot reading based on your decision. So go ahead and choose Sunstone or Chrysocolla, and let's begin our readings. Okay, for those of you who chose Sunstone, welcome to your reading. If you chose Sunstone, this Cazimi is going to bring you enlightenment. What you need to get from this Cazimi is the light of the sun. Your intuition is telling you that vibrancy and warmth and glow is going to be really, really important. So I'm really excited to see how this turns out. I chose for you, in honor of Sunstone, in honor of the Cazimi, the Astrological Oracle deck as our oracle deck, and the Thoth deck for our tarot reading. I chose these two because if your intuition guided you toward the sun, and enlightenment is what you'll need, I really want the more archetypal nature of these cards, the depth that they can provide. I want that to really help you understand and activate the deeper parts of your vibrant nature, the deeper parts of your core in general. I'm really hoping that the combination of this oracle and tarot deck will help you to understand more deeply and shine a brighter light onto some of your more complicated and deep sense of self. The idea here is that because of the dynamic nature of these cards, and because you were guided towards Sunstone, the idea is that the sun will be able to penetrate those deeper layers for you and really reveal the guidance you need to stay protected and to keep you motivated and lit up as we move towards another eclipse. So let's get started. Beginning with the Astrological Oracle deck, as I shuffle, let's try to tap in to the messages you learned or what your intuition received from the solar eclipse when the sun was in shadow. You need the sun's light now. And so on the day of this Cazimi, I really want you to tap into and open yourself up to the sun as much as you can. Hopefully this oracle pair can give us a foundation for this reading as a whole and offer some deep and maybe dynamic, maybe complex framework framework for the rest of the spread. Okay, so let's draw our pair and get started. The first card that I draw in the pair is the 8th house of transformation. Very appropriate for eclipse season. What's the second card that I draw? Finishing off our pair. The 1st house of the self. Okay. Wow. So, 8th house and the 1st house. The 8th house can be very dynamic and very complicated. It can also be a little bit, not shadowy, but a little bit, there's this idea of maybe a little bit of a hidden nature to it, to a degree. The 12th house is a lot more about hidden nature, but with the 8th house, there's this sense of rebirth, certainly, the sense of sharing, of understanding what others have access to is definitely part of this, but with this deck in particular, the focus is on transformation, and in eclipse season, so are the eclipses. And so you have to be as well. And finishing out the pair was the 1st house, the house of the self, the house of identity. I think getting a card that has so much to do with sharing with the 8th house and a card that has so much to do with your own person is showing me that the dynamics for you during eclipse season is really gonna hinge on what's yours and what's others. At the start of this reading, getting 2 cards that have to do with that dynamic, with these almost opposites, not quite opposites, but this idea of balancing out yourself, your own sense of identity with what you share with others outside of yourself, I think is a really interesting place to start. In terms of how the sun is impacting these, I think that the clarity you might need to get from the start is on the intersection of the self and others. As Mercury moves through the sun and gets lit up by it, this oracle pair is saying that what the light might be shining on is how you balance the idea that your identity is exclusively yours, but that, just like all of us, on the outside you have to share. Not just yourself, but your stuff as well. I think the sun needs to really shine a light on that intersection. How does your inner identity match with what you share with others in the physical world? I hope the tarot spread can show us more about that and inform that. Let's get to that. Okay. So as I shuffle, let's once again look back at these oracle cards. The 8th house and the 1st house. Think about your own natal chart. What sign is in your 8th house? What sign is in your 1st house? Where is your ascendant? Think about where the sun is in your chart as well, and how or if that impacts the 8th and the 1st house. If it does, this reading is going to be even more consequential for you. But regardless, ponder these houses. If you don't know which house is in which sign, that's okay too. Just think about transformation and the self, think about sharing and identity and the sun. And let's draw our 3 cards. First card that I draw is the 8 of Wands. Okay. The next card the 9 of Swords. And our final card to give us the complete picture the Princess of Chalices. Okay, a super dynamic outcome. The one, you have every suit except Pentacles, which is very interesting. I think that speaks to what I was anticipating about your intuition guiding you towards the sun. is that you are much more, what you're going to need more is the internal, more broad spiritual approach. That part of you, that enlightenment, is much more important than the physical realm. So, with all of that in mind, the first card that I drew was the Eight of Wands. The Eight of Wands is definitely showing me that there is a quickness to your life experience right now. There's this sense that during eclipse season, you've kind of had to move quickly forward, or at least that your life is moving forward regardless of if you wanted to or not, or if the eclipses are helping with that or not. Getting the Eight of Wands is saying there's a swiftness and a quickness to your experiences right now. I think that maybe hopefully is hinting to some kind of rapid learning or rapid growth in your self-perception. I think in terms of this spread, there's definitely this idea that you are going to quickly be able to comprehend this Cazimi, certainly, and presumably even the rest of eclipse season. I think what it definitely shows, though, is that there is a sense of progress. So that's great to see. I think maybe there's a sense of progress in your self-understanding. Maybe there's a sense of progress in something more mundane, like just a project you're working on or some kind of goal you've set. I think that even in eclipse season, when things can be kind of shadowy and confusing, that there is a sense that you are still progressing through just fine. Maybe even rapidly, which is good, because the next card I drew was the Nine of Swords. The Nine of Swords is a tough card. There's a sense here that whether it's moving fast or not, whether you are overcoming it quickly, or whether the progress has anything to do with it, there is an emotional depth. And again, this ties back into what your intuition is telling you. It's guiding you towards the Sunstone. It's guiding you towards the sun, the need for deeper enlightenment. I think that you're willing to, or at least you're having to, deal with some pretty deep emotional stuff. Maybe what you need to share, what you're having to share, what maybe you're having to even give up about your identity, that may be causing some kind of emotional turmoil, certainly, maybe even trauma. Maybe it's feeling like you're sharing too much. Maybe someone's forcing you to share too much, or a situation is set up that way. Maybe this progress indicated by the Eight of Wands is really emotionally challenging. Maybe it's just that eclipse season is emotionally challenging. I think, again, we need to go back to the Eight of Wands, because I think the idea that this progress will just kind of still continue for you through the eclipses is really promising. But the most promising thing that I see in this entire spread is the Princess of Chalices. While sometimes she can be a little bit too wrapped up in fantasy, maybe a little bit delusional, I think getting her here for you is the message you need to hear. You need to not only listen to your intuition guided you to this spread, so you're on the right track. It's showing you what you need, the sun's enlightenment. This Cazimi today, you need to lean into the light element of it, the sunshine element. You also need to lean into the deeper intuitive part of it. The sun's light is shining on your intuition, and getting the Princess of Chalices here is showing me that you are really ready to, and in need of, a deep dive into what makes you inspired. Inspiration. And inspiration gained from fantasy and your imagination is what's key here. What's going to help with the Nine of Swords energy, what's going to help with the fact that you have to move forward and you may have to share some of the stuff that's yours, even some of yourself, that during this dark and shadowy process of eclipse season, the sun is guiding you, the sun is lighting you up, the sun is lighting up your imagination and your fantasy, your ability to fantasize. The sun is guiding you towards that part of you, so that you can be inspired. Inspiration gained through imagination and fantasy is what's going to help you progress the way you need to. It's what's going to help you deal with the trauma and maybe the emotional conflict of having to balance your identity with what you have to share. I think that this Cazimi and Mercury's smarts are really going to help you really, as long as you dive into the Princess of Chalice's advice, which is to engage in fantasy. As long as you engage in fantasy, listen to your intuition via your imagination. Let the sun shine on that part of your psyche. I think if you do that, understanding what needs to be shared, what needs to be left behind, what needs to be released through these eclipses, and what needs to be gained, where the progress you're on will take you, where that journey will eventually land you, where all of that will happen will be revealed to you if you let the sun enlighten your fantasies and your imagination. That's a really exciting place to be. The Nine of Swords is not exciting. It's tough. It means that there's going to be emotional difficulty. The eclipse season is going to bring that to you. That's just the facts. But you are progressing forward with the Eight of Wands. The princess needs you to light up your fantasies, let the sun make you imaginative, and use all of this information, everything you learned, everything Mercury also teaches you as it goes through the sun, to balance out what needs to be shared and what doesn't. Keep your identity to yourself, for yourself. I think if you can let fantasy guide you there via the sun, you will get exactly what you need, the knowledge and the protection and the enlightenment especially that you need to make it through the rest of eclipse season and to heal the wounds that are represented by the Nine of Swords. I think that's going to be really important. Fantasy and imagination. Use it today. I'll see you next time. All right, so for those of you who chose Chrysocolla, we will begin your reading now. If you chose Chrysocolla, you are being guided towards Mercury and Mercury's intellectual and communicative approach to all it does. This Cazimi is going to be very Mercury focused for you. The sun shining on Mercury, Mercury moving through the sun, is really going to light up your intellectual side. You need to really listen and be open to any thoughts or engagement with your intellect that you can. Today, that is going to be crystal clear for you. You are going to be able to be pragmatic and thoughtful. And today, in particular, you're going to be able to use that as kind of a shield, as kind of a protector on the way to the next eclipse. We are right in between eclipses. Mercury is your guide during this time. Your intuition has told you that, and I really hope that this tarot spread will help us to really settle in on some concrete and clear guidance and knowledge. So I chose the Lenormand as our oracle deck today. We will choose a Lenormand pair and use its pragmatic guidance to frame the rest of this spread. We will be using the Rider-Waite-Smith deck as our tarot deck. And I chose these two because I really want us to have a fundamental and really clear enlightenment in regard to the archetypal elements that this Cazimi is going to bring. Putting it more simply, I wanted these two decks to give us a more structured, clear, obvious framework to help us understand how we can move forward in a smart, intellectual, and coherent way. I want us to be really clear-eyed. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully these cards will help with that. So let's get started with the Lenormand. Okay, as I shuffle the Lenormand deck, let's bring ourselves back to where we are, which is right in the middle of eclipse season. Last week we had a solar eclipse in Libra. The Cazimi takes place in Libra, so really think about what that solar eclipse meant for you. We have a lunar eclipse in Taurus next week, so right in the middle we get this beautiful bright Cazimi, and so hopefully your intuition and the tarot and the oracle deck can help us set up a framework to guide our intellect. Let's see. The first card I draw in the pair is the Tower. Okay. The next card that I draw to complete the pair the Garden. Okay, well, with the Tower and the Garden as our pair, the interplay of opposites is clear. There's also this more literal interpretation of a gathering in a public place, a civic meeting, almost like a civic celebration, kind of like a city throwing a parade or something like that. There definitely is something like that here. I think because this reading is about the Cazimi and because your intuition guided you to Mercury, I think that the Tower is showing that on the one hand, there's this sense that you may be going on this journey alone. It's internal. You are protected. You are maybe even blocking yourself off. But then the Garden says that there's either a craving for some kind of social activity, or within this protected space, there is room for some kind of social activity. So the way I'm seeing this is the Sun may be showing you that the spaces you've set up, the pragmatic space you've set up, needs to be opened up to your groups. I think because it's the Tower and the Garden, it probably is a really close-knit group, potentially even an in-house group, meaning like a family group or a chosen family group. I think the protective barrier of the Tower is still going to be really important. I think also it's showing that the Sun maybe needs to show you not only where you can open up your space to others, or that you need to do that, it's kind of showing me that the knowledge you need to gain can only come from others, or can only come from the knowledge you can gain with others in your shared safe space. Either way, your boundaries are important and they're clear. This oracle pair shows me that for sure. But maybe the garden outside your tower, or the communal space inside your tower, needs to be filled with some close loved ones. I think the shared knowledge that can be gained from letting those people in, I think will be really important. I think keeping your solid boundaries is also essential though. So if you can't let anyone in, then engage in something social online. Engage in something that you can still have outreach inside of your protective tower. Either way though, some kind of reaching out, some kind of branching out, even if it's in your safe space only, is called for with this. So hopefully the tarot deck could provide us even more clarity. Like I said, I wanted this spread to really show us some kind of pragmatic path. So hopefully the tarot can clarify even more. All right, moving on to the tarot. We will be drawing 3 tarot cards from the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And again, like I said, I really hope we get a little bit more clarity about this Tower Garden mix. I think on a practical level, I think that, like I said, opening up your spaces is going to be key, but let's get a little bit more guidance to get the complete picture. The first card that I draw is the King of Pentacles. Okay. Second card I draw, the Page of Wands reversed. And finally, the Fool reversed. Okay, so this spread is super validating for you. Because you were drawn to Chyrsocolla, because you were drawn to Mercury, because your intuition guided you to this spread, it's clear that you need pragmatism and practicality as Mercury moves through the sun and gets lit up by all of its warm vibrancy and clarity. Right in the middle of eclipses, right in the middle of eclipse season, you need pragmatism. This tarot spread definitely implies that that is very, very true. So if you've kind of been engaging in fantasy and if you've been letting illusions kind of guide you, or you have been feeling unprotected mentally, I think that the tarot spread here shows you that, and where your intuition guided you, shows me you need a practical approach. So the first tarot card I drew was the King of Pentacles. The King of Pentacles is in that garden in front of the tower. Literally in the image, that's where he is. So right away, we get the idea of someone empowered, someone who understands practicality, but also understands the deeper parts of nature. Someone who is absolutely lit up and guided by the sun, but understands how those deeper meanings and the deeper archetypal stuff in all of that is really practical and useful and can be used to not only fulfill yourself, but also fulfill others. So getting this card with this Lenormand pair is really clear that your power position right now, the place where at least where you can get the most clarity, is in that garden in front of your tower, meaning it's in your safe social space within or right next to your most important boundaried sanctuary. I love seeing that. It shows me that this oracle pair was absolutely reflective of what we needed to see. The sun is going to really inform all of this for you. So if you don't understand what your sanctuary is, if you don't understand where your social space fits into that or around that, let the sun today, as Mercury passes through it, let it really light up your understanding of those spaces. I think that's really crucial because the next card I drew was the Page of Wands reversed. The Page of Wands reversed does not like complexity. The Page of Wands reversed has a hard time dealing with kind of more nuanced stuff. And right now, that's kind of where you are, and that's okay. It's not necessarily that you can't deal with it. It's that at this time, maybe the eclipses are making it difficult to deal with. This idea that the more fantastical side, or the side of you that maybe interacts more with illusion and dreamscapes and places like that and things like that, I think that the Page of Wands here is saying that that's not really where you need to be right now. The King of Pentacles authority and this oracle pair really say that being in charge and in power in a place where you feel comfortable doing that is what's most important. Understanding, again, you were drawn to Chyrsocolla and drawn to Mercury. Understanding a pragmatic approach and using that right now, letting the sun inform that, is where you need to be. The Page of Wands reversed here is, hinting that that's maybe the case. And maybe it's because your strength right now isn't in dynamic, complicated pursuits. I think it's in a lot more about understanding your authority, your power, and your sanctuary, your safe space, more than it is about any kind of engagement in those kinds of more complex, deeper things. I think getting the Fool reversed, which was our next card, the card that completed our picture, shows me that it's really important that you don't do that. Whether or not you can is questionable. Whether or not you're open to all of that right now is questionable. Maybe you really are. But the Fool reversed is saying, even if you are, leaps of faith, deep dives into fantasy and delusions or illusions even, aren't going to be super helpful when it comes to what you need during eclipse season. You need to feel strong and safe in your spaces. You do need to let people into that. You need to either let people into your sanctuary or let them into the places you've allowed for guests. The garden and the oracle pair definitely says that that is really important. Letting people in is really important. Or even just reaching out is really important. And maybe it's literally just going to a social event. Maybe it's literally having a social event at your house or in your safe space, something like that. But that's more literal. And pragmatism is the name of the game for you right now. But the Fool reversed only emphasizes that. The Page of Wands and the Fool, both reversed, definitely hint that, especially next to the King of Pentacles upright, that you need to stay away from illusions, stay away from super deep, imaginative deep dives right now. At least don't make any decisions around that. If you are contemplating your safe spaces today, if that is where the Sun and Mercury are guiding you, if you are adding a pragmatic element to that in particular, let people in, stay social, but don't make any decisions based on things that aren't clear. Illusions, fantasy. Also, don't take any super intense risks. If you do let people in, just let the people you're closest with in. Do that, but only let those people in. People in your community, in your communities are probably the best bet. Regardless, as we get the complete picture of this spread, I think what's incredibly clear is that on the day of this Cazimi today, with the energy provided to Mercury by the Sun, with the enlightenment provided to Mercury, you need to figure out where your safe spaces are, rely on those boundaries, trust them, let the right people in, the people you're closest with, the people who respect those boundaries, let those people in, maybe even have a party with them. But do all of that from your place of authority. Let the Sun show you where that is, and then let Mercury's pragmatism guide you away from complexity, away from illusion, away from rash decision making, and into a place of comfortable, united authority. A place where you can feel empowered, but also in power. A place where you can be empowered and also effective at helping others and letting others in. A place of comfort and authority is what you need to find, and then let those special chosen few into that space. Let the Cazimi today guide you to understanding where and what and who that is. I'll see you next time. Okay, wow. Well, after those two spreads, I'm really excited about this Cazimi. I think it has all the information we need in it. I think it's going to be a wonderful, beautiful guide for us and a protection, almost like a shield from these eclipses during this time of the eclipse, if not from them. From what I saw in each spread, I think there's a common theme of what's ours and what's others being really important. Understanding the balance between yourself and others is crucial. I think that's the Libra in all of this. The idea that that solar eclipse was in Libra and that this Cazimi is also in Libra. I think Libra is definitely wanting us to figure out that balance. This Cazimi is going to have a ton of really good information about that based on these spreads. And I think ultimately the most important thing that I got out of these spreads is that for all of us, this time of transition, this time of potential rebirth, this almost shadowy time is going to be challenging, but it's going to really help us end up where we need to end up. It's going to really help us understand our boundaries, but also the relationship between illusions and pragmatism, the relationships between light and dark, this compatible nature between opposites. I think the Cazimi today is going to guide each of you towards a deeper and very important understanding of how that shows up for you. What it means for you and what it means for others in your life. What it means for you and the rest of us. The balance between us and them is going to be crucial. The eclipses will make it apparent one way or the other where we all end up, but we can protect ourselves and assert our own agency, especially at this point in the process, if we use the Sun's warmth and vibrancy and Mercury's intellect and pragmatism and need for communication to guide us towards an understanding of what is shared, so we can get through all of this stuff together. It doesn't begin or end here, but this Cazimi is a great place for us to remember who we are together. I hope you do. All of you are wonderful. Use this Cazimi to stay protected. Use this Cazimi as a guide. But above all, let it light you up from the inside. Let it provide you with tons of warmth and comfort and vibrancy. I'll see you next time.